Have you ever scrolled through social media and felt like you're the only person on the planet who checks their bank balance before buying a coffee? It seems like everyone around you is living their best life, posting vacation photos from Bali, showing off their brand new car, or casually mentioning they just dropped $300 on dinner without batting an eye. Meanwhile, you're over whether here calculating you can afford the name brand cereal or if you need to stick with the generic stuff that tastes like cardboard soaked in disappointment. What's going on here? Are you secretly the poorest person in your social circle? Did everyone else get some kind of financial handbook that you missed? Or maybe there's a secret money tree growing in everyone's backyard except yours. The truth is far more interesting than you might expect, and it's definitely not what most people think. My name is Nick, and I help people understand the real story behind personal finance and money management. If you're tired of feeling like you're the only one struggling while everyone else seems to be swimming in cash, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if this resonates with you. Let's start with something that might blow your mind. According to recent financial data, roughly 1 in 3 Americans are carrying credit card debt. That's not a small number we're talking about here. That's millions of people walking around with balances that they can't pay off in full each month. But here's the kicker. Many of these people don't seem particularly bothered by it. They've essentially made peace with the idea of owing money indefinitely. Think about that for a second. While you're lying awake at night worried about your budget, there are people out there who view their credit cards as some kind of magical money printing machine. They swipe away with the confidence of someone who just won the lottery, except they're actually digging themselves deeper into a hole with interest rates that would make a loan shark blush. We're talking about rates between 20 and 30%, which means that fancy dinner they charged last month is going to cost them double by the time they actually pay it off. This ties into what I like to call the live for today and let tomorrow Nick deal with the consequences mentality. These folks have mastered the art of psychological compartmentalization. They've somehow convinced themselves that future them will magically have more money to handle today's spending spree. It's like believing that your future self is going to suddenly develop superpowers or win the lottery. Spoiler alert, future you is probably going to have the same income and a lot more resentment. But the credit card situation is just the tip of the iceberg. Let's talk about something that might explain why your coworker seems to afford everything while making roughly the same salary as you. Here's a fun fact that might surprise you. Nearly 40% of Americans have some kind of side hustle bringing in an average of about $800 per month. That's not pocket change we're talking about. Now, before you start feeling bad about your single income stream, remember that this extra money doesn't come from thin air. While you're at home binge watching Netflix and actually relaxing after work, your seemingly wealthy coworker might be driving for a rideshare company, selling products online, freelancing, or running some other business on the side. They're trading their evenings and weekends for extra cash. So when you see them splurging on expensive lunches or booking weekend trips, just remember, they're probably working when you're sleeping. The funny thing is, most people with side hustles don't actually need that extra money for basic survival. It's their play money, their guilt-free spending fund. This creates an interesting psychological effect where they can spend their side hustle income without the same mental barriers they'd have with their main salary. It's like finding $20 in an old jacket pocket, except it happens every month and it's $800 instead of $20. But wait, there's more to this puzzle. Have you ever noticed how people seem to excel in one area of spending while being mysteriously absent from others? It's like they're playing a weird game of financial whack-a-mole. That friend who always seems to be jetting off to exotic destinations? Take a closer look at their wardrobe. They might be wearing the same 5 outfits in rotation, shopping exclusively at thrift stores, or still using a phone from the Stone Age. On the flip side, you might know someone whose closet looks like a high-end boutique, but when you suggest grabbing dinner somewhere that costs more than $15, they suddenly remember they're on a strict ramen-only diet. Or consider that colleague who just bought a house that looks like it belongs in a magazine. What you don't see is that they're now eating peanut butter sandwiches for lunch every day because their mortgage payment is consuming their entire paycheck. This is where human psychology gets really interesting. we have this bizarre tendency to notice what people have rather than what they're giving up to get it. It's like our brains are programmed to focus on the shiny objects while completely ignoring the sacrifices happening behind scenes. We see the new car, but not the fact that they're working 70 hours a week to afford the payments. We notice the expensive clothes, but miss the fact that they haven't been on vacation in 3 years. Most people are making trade-offs, just like you are. The difference is that their trade-offs might be in areas you don't see or think about. They might be house rich but cash poor, or they might have a fantastic social life, but a retirement account that looks like a barren wasteland. Everyone is robbing Peter to pay Paul. They're just choosing different Peters and different Pauls. Here's something that'll really mess with your head. Some of the people who appear to be the most financially successful are actually hanging on by a thread. They're like financial performers putting on a show, and you're sitting in the audience thinking the magic is real. The truth is, many people feel pressure to maintain a certain image, even if it means sacrificing their actual financial security. This creates what I call the fake it till you make it financial trap. People spend money they don't have on things they don't need to impress people who probably aren't paying that much attention anyway. It's like being in a play where everyone is pretending to be wealthy, but nobody wants to be the first person to admit they're actually broke. The really wild part is that this phenomenon isn't limited to people with low incomes. Some of the most impressive looking lifestyles are being funded by debt, family money, or unsustainable spending patterns. That person with the luxury car and designer everything might be living paycheck to paycheck, just with a much more expensive paycheck and much more expensive lifestyle to maintain. Social media has made this whole situation infinitely worse. People are curating their lives to show only the highlight reel, and we're comparing our behind-the-scenes reality to everyone else's carefully edited performance. You're seeing the vacation photos, but not the months of saving or the credit card debt that made it possible. You're seeing the restaurant meals, but not the weeks of eating leftovers that followed. It's like everyone has become a professional photographer specializing in making their life look like a luxury magazine spread. They'll spend 20 minutes getting the perfect angle of their avocado toast while conveniently cropping out the fact that they're eating it in their studio apartment with a mattress on the floor. But here's where things get really interesting, and this might be the most important point in this entire video. The people who are actually wealthy, the ones with real money in the bank, often don't look the part at all. True wealth tends to be surprisingly quiet and boring. While everyone else is putting on a financial fireworks show, genuinely wealthy people are sitting in the corner wearing a 10-year-old sweater, driving a reliable but unremarkable car, and probably wondering why everyone else is making such a big deal about money. This creates a fascinating paradox. The people who look the richest are often the brokest, and the people who are actually rich often look like they shop exclusively at discount stores. It's like the universe decided to play a cosmic joke on all of us. The flashy spender posting pictures of their expensive dinner might be one unexpected expense away from financial disaster, while the person wearing worn-out jeans might have enough money saved to buy the entire restaurant. Real wealthy people don't need to prove anything to anyone. They already know they have money, so they don't feel compelled to wave it around like a flag. They're not trying to impress strangers at the grocery store or make their high school classmates jealous on Facebook. They've moved beyond the psychological need for financial validation because they have actual financial security. Think about it this way, if you had $1 million in your bank account, would you really care about showing off a designer handbag? Probably not. You'd be more concerned with not drawing attention to yourself and maybe figuring out how to turn that million into 2 million. The need to flaunt wealth often comes from a place of insecurity, not abundance. This brings us to another crucial point that most people completely miss. Everyone started their journey from different places, and those starting points matter more than most people want to admit. Some folks had their parents pay for college, graduate debt-free, and move back home to save money for a house down payment. Others worked 3 jobs to put themselves through school and started their adult life already behind the financial 8-ball. Some people chose practical but unglamorous careers that set them up for financial stability. Others followed their passion into fields that pay about as well as professional unicorn whispering. Some got lucky with timing, entering the job market during boom times or buying houses before prices went insane. Others graduated during recessions or tried to buy their first home when prices were at historic highs. The point is, what looks like a level playing field from the outside is actually more like a game everyone start where at different points, with different rules and sometimes with different objectives entirely. That person who seems to have it all figured out might have had a massive head start that you never knew about. Here's something that might make you feel better about your own situation. A huge percentage of Americans can't even come up with $1,000 for an emergency. That's not a typo. We're talking about people with decent jobs, college degrees, and middle-class lifestyles who are basically one car repair away from financial panic. So if you're stressed about money, at least you're not alone in a boat that's apparently pretty crowded. The really crazy part is that many of these financially fragile people are the same ones who appear to be living large on social media. They're posting pictures from expensive restaurants while having $23 in their checking account and praying their credit card doesn't get declined. It's like watching someone play financial Russian roulette while posting inspirational quotes about living your best life. But here's where the rubber meets the road, and this is what separates people who build real wealth from people who just look wealthy. The secret isn't about earning more money, although that certainly doesn't hurt. It's about developing a completely different relationship with money itself. Instead of seeing money as something to spend as quickly as possible, wealthy people see it as a tool that can work for them. They understand something that most people never figure out. Every dollar you save and invest today is like hiring a little employee who works for you forever. That employee might not work very hard at first, maybe earning you a few cents a year, but over time, those employees multiply and start earning more, and eventually you have an entire workforce of dollars generating income while you sleep. Meanwhile, most people are essentially firing their dollar employees as fast as they can hire them. They get their paycheck, immediately spend it on stuff that loses value, and then wonder why they're not getting ahead financially. It's like hiring a team of workers and then immediately telling them all to go home and never come back. The psychology behind spending versus saving is absolutely fascinating. When you buy something, you get an immediate hit of satisfaction. Your brain releases happy chemicals, you feel good for a moment, and then it's over. But when you save or invest money, there's no immediate gratification. In fact, it might even feel like you're punishing yourself by not buying the thing you wanted. This is why so many people struggle with building wealth. Our brains are basically programmed for instant gratification. But wealth building is all about delayed gratification. It's like trying to train a puppy to ignore a treat sitting right in front of them while you're promising them a bigger treat later. The puppy doesn't understand later, and neither does your brain when it comes to money. But here's the thing that really messes with people's heads. The gap between how we think money works and how it actually works is enormous. Most people operate under the assumption that if someone appears to have money, they must actually have money. It's like assuming everyone who looks happy must be genuinely happy, or everyone who looks confident must actually know what they're doing. So the reality is often the complete opposite. I once knew someone who drove a BMW, wore expensive watches, and always picked up the check at dinner. Everyone assumed he was loaded. Turns out he was basically running a one-man Ponzi scheme with his own credit cards, shuffling balances between different cards to keep the whole house of cards from collapsing. His monthly minimum payments were higher than most people's rent, but he kept up the act because admitting the truth felt impossible. This kind of financial theater is way more common than you'd think. People are essentially method actors playing the role of wealthy person, except the performance never ends and the reviews are terrible. They're trapped in a character they created, and breaking character means admitting to everyone that they've been living a lie. Now, let's talk about something that'll really bake your noodle: family money. This is probably the biggest invisible factor that nobody talks about, but explains so much about why Some people seem to glide through life while others struggle with every step. Some folks have what I call stealth wealth backing them up. Their parents might not be millionaires, but they're covering car insurance, cell phone bills, health insurance, or even rent. That's hundreds or thousands of dollars every month that doesn't have to come out of their paycheck. Or maybe their grandparents left them a chunk of money that they're quietly using to supplement their lifestyle. They're not necessarily buying Ferraris with inheritance money, but having an extra $20,000 or $30,000 sitting in an account changes everything about how you approach financial decisions. It's like playing a video game with cheat codes enabled while everyone else is grinding through the normal difficulty level. The really sneaky part about family financial support is that it's often invisible to outsiders. Nobody's going to casually mention that their parents are still covering their health insurance or that they got a $10,000 gift for a house down payment. Thus, these advantages compound over time, creating what looks like superior financial management when it's actually just superior financial starting conditions. But let's get back to the psychology of spending, because this is where things get really weird. Most people have completely backward thinking about money and happiness. They think that spending money will make them happy and saving money will make them miserable. But research consistently shows that people who save money are generally happier and less stressed than people who spend everything they earn. It's like we've convinced ourselves that the path to happiness runs directly through the mall, when in reality, financial security is one of the strongest predictors of overall life satisfaction. Having money in the bank doesn't just make you richer, it makes you sleep better, fight less with your spouse, and worry less about the future. But try explaining that to someone who just saw a really convincing advertisement for something they absolutely must have right now. The advertising industry has basically weaponized our psychological weaknesses against us. They've figured out how to make us feel incomplete without their products, how to create artificial urgency, and how to make us believe that buying stuff is somehow an expression of our identity. It's like they've hacked into our brains and installed malware that makes us want things we don't need with money we don't have. And social media has turned this whole thing into a competitive sport. Everyone's trying to one-up each other with their lifestyle posts, creating this weird arms race of conspicuous consumption. People are literally going into debt to maintain their social media image, which is insane when you think about it. They're paying interest on purchases they made specifically to impress people who are probably too busy staging their own lifestyle photos to pay attention. Here's something that might blow your mind. Some of the people posting the most expensive looking content are actually the most financially desperate. It's like they're doubling down on the performance because admitting the truth has become impossible. They're trapped in a cycle where they have to keep spending money. They don't have to maintain an image that's preventing them from actually building wealth. The irony is that the people who could most benefit from being honest about their financial struggles are the ones who feel the most pressure to hide them. Meanwhile, people who are actually doing well financially often downplay their success because they don't want to deal with the social complications that come with being seen as the wealthy person in their friend group. This creates a bizarre situation where everyone thinks everyone else is doing better than they are, when in reality, most people are struggling in some way. It's like being in a room full of people who are all pretending to understand a joke that nobody actually gets, but everyone's too embarrassed to admit they're confused. But here's where understanding all this can actually help you. Once you realize that most of what you're seeing is performance rather than reality, you can stop comparing your behind-the-scenes reality to everyone else's highlight reel. You can focus on building actual wealth instead of the appearance of wealth, which is infinitely more valuable in the long run. So the next time you're scrolling through social media feeling like everyone else got invited to some exclusive millionaires club while you're still waiting for your membership card in the mail, just remember that most of those people are probably checking their bank balance just as nervously as you are. The difference is they're better at hiding it behind carefully curated Instagram posts and designer debt. Focus on building real wealth instead of performing fake wealth, and You'll sleep better at night knowing your financial foundation is actually solid instead of made of credit cards and wishful thinking.